just gonna set these rolling.
This is why I'm not an actor. It's like my body, like once I'm like my body language becomes very. So Mother Russia is a goofy buddy comedy about two Russian dudes in a post-Soviet Russia trying to figure it out.
Nice. Cold War choir practice is about a black family, specifically about a little black girl in upstate New York in 1987, whose prominent conservative uncle comes home with his strange and ill wife and sends everyone in the family into kind of a maze of espionage and other weird things.
So I started this play in 2017, basically 9 years ago. And when I started it, I was in the midst of a communism in Asia in the 20th century and its collision with Western pop culture kick, nice. As one does.
Nice.
And I fell in love with this film called The Lives of Others, which is a very serious, very beautiful story about a German Stasi agent who becomes deeply embroiled in the lives of the people he is watching. And I was like, is there a goofy buddy comedy version of that set in St. Petersburg, 1992? And it's kind of particularly funny because it's like 1992, it's like that we're supposed to be over that paranoia at this point. We're supposed to be meeting capitalism head on. And it's about two people who watch the world that they thought they were going to go into suddenly be upended and have to like scramble to make stuff happen for themselves.
I love that. The director of my play, Peanut Adams, loves that movie. He's obsessed with that movie. Yeah, I guess my play is not really about Russia so much, but when I was a kid in the 80s, I was in a choir, and the whole point of the choir was to sing peace into being. So we sang about the possibility of nuclear war and like how peace could come about if we all just understood each other and sang in all the languages of the world, stuff like that. And so I was reflecting back on that after Putin invaded Ukraine, and I was taking another class that was looking at the Cold War and sort of cybernetics and art history, and so I was thinking about that time period a lot. And this sort of just flowered out.
My research process is probably a little backwards, that I start with a world that I'm really fascinated in, that I may not be an expert in yet, and I will kind of run as far as I can knowing what I know. And then there's a point in the process where I'm like, okay, now I actually have to do my research. And now I actually know what I want to write about. And that is the time when I'll usually talk to a lot of people. I love oral histories. I love, if it happened to someone, it could happen in the play.
Right.
And so I talked to a lot of my friends and their parents who came over to the United States in the late 80s, early 90s. It also so happened that the sound designer, who is the sound designer in Mother Russia, Misha Fixel, grew up in Novosibirsk in kind of that period. And so a lot of it is also experiences that he had that have somehow like migrated into the play.
Nice. I also talk to folks, but I talk to family members. So I talked to like my brother, and I have two cousins who are older than me. Like my brother's 8 years older than me. My cousins are like 17 years older than me. So they just remember 1987 in a way that I couldn't because I was a kid. So that was really helpful just to get a sense of like, well, what is like a black person in Syracuse thinking about all of these things? And then I did a lot of research just on the Cold War in general. I revisited all of the sort of readings and articles and critical theory that I read for the class that I had taken. Stuff like that. I did a lot of research about cults and like the Black Power movement and Black conservatives, just all of that, mixing it with generative writing exercises to just see what could come out of that. I also had a language consultant who is from Moscow, Sofia Verba, and she was awesome because there used to be a ton of Russian in the play, like way too much Russian, I found out, but she helped me with the translation and making it possible for me to say what I'm actually trying to say, not just what Google Translate is translating. Do you have Russian in your play?
So in my play, we don't have Russian spoken, but we do on our set have a Folgers ad in Russian. And our sound designer, Misha, had to consult with his mom to come up with something that felt like a good ad for Folgers, that kind of like rhymed and also like felt peppy enough to be like advertising of that era. So I do think like that part of our set has been well tested.
Nice, very cool.
I think in any play that I write about history, I'm always interested in like, how do you give an audience the feel of what that era was like emotionally? And so like the pop culture references that speak to an American audience can help to ground them in kind of what these characters were going through. I'm always interested in what might resonate for an American audience, because I think I write about history as a way of writing about now and here.
Yeah.
And so there was a lot of American brands, there's McDonald's, in our design there's all sorts of fun nods to the fashion of the era. and I don't know, I think it's such a wonderful like bridge into the time period to be like, remember what it was like. It's also interesting because I think the play can be enjoyed by anyone, but there's always like a generational divide of people who are like, I was not alive in 1992. Right. don't even try to sell me that ad. Don't know what it is.
Right. We had a couple of really young audience members come to the show, and they were like, do you think this translates across the generation? They're like, I hope so, you tell me. But I think that's the coolest thing about having really specific pop culture references, is the person who's like, oh my god, I wanted, like, in my play there's a character who has a very specific Christmas list, and they're 80s toys, and so people coming up to me and saying, I had a pound puppy, or I wanted a speak and spell. I did not have a speak and spell, but people are like, oh, you must have had a speak and spell, you know?
Yeah, I was like, I definitely remember the pound puppies.
Yes.
You're like rescuing them from the clutches of Toys R Us.
Exactly. And there's a lot of Reagan in my play. That's the other pop culture reference, is like direct audio from his speeches, which people have very different responses to depending on how they feel about Reagan. A lot of the music the children's choir sings is inspired by the choir that I was in when I was a kid. So I just tried to write my versions of those kinds of songs with a little twist, because this choir is a little stranger than that choir was. And then I also tried to make music that sounded like Christmas carols, but eerie Christmas carols. And then there's like one big song for adult skate night where like all the black people in town come to skate in the skating rink, and that I wanted to very much sound like an 80s song. Maybe not like a top 10 on the Billboard 100, but something like your auntie played at a cookout, or like something that you might have danced to at a roller rink.
Yeah. So in Mother Russia, there is a titular character of Mother Russia, and she is our narrator. She's our bridge between the scenes that we see and the audience itself. And I find it's fun because a lot of my pieces feature a narrator. Usually there is some sort of direct address, because I just feel like that's so theatrical. But when I was trying to figure out the play, and I tried to figure out the play for a very long time, one of the things that I tried was removing Mother Russia, which turned out to be a very terrible mistake because the play collapsed. So I think just like, to me, I realized what she is she's like, in a way, like that gateway for an audience to experience the play, and a way to give you a sense of, I don't know, world and style.
Cool. I guess in my play, the choir, I knew there was going to be a choir because it came out of this very specific memory. But I wanted the choir not to function like a traditional chorus would, even though they are embodying a lot of different kinds of characters. So I tried to find a way to make them feel stranger and not neutral, and to really kind of crawl out of the audio that we hear and the things that are sort of in the air at the time. So they tend to appear after Reagan's audio plays and stuff like that, or they appear because we're watching a video of the national version of the children's choir, and then we see the children's choir, the local version appear. So they're hopefully they feel a little slippery and a little strange.
So this production at Signature is not the first production the play has ever had, but it is the first production of this particular script. Since its premiere, I have just churned and churned and churned. I rewrote the play twice during our first 2 weeks of rehearsal, and so it really feels like the play has been birthed and it is out in the world during this run, which is such a relief.
Nice.
And it's just been fun to see what people laugh at. I feel like New York audiences, they're so sharp, they're so fast, they get the references, and it's a theater town, so like there's a little sprinkling of a little Broadway in there.
All right.
Which is very fun.
I guess for me, the biggest surprise doing the show, we did this in Summer Works last year, so we're bringing back essentially the same show, small changes, and a slightly different cast. But I'm surprised by there's like a wide range of audience members who have found a way into the story and are excited about the story. So I'm not surprised when someone who is about my age in my demographic is like, oh my gosh, yes, I love this story, I love this character Meek. But I am surprised when like some people who are very different from me in a very different generation are like, I remember when Reagan gave that speech, and it's like awesome. Everyone's finding their own way into this story, which is cool.
I will say, have you been waiting to see Chess? Do you have tickets to Chess? Chess will be running 3 or 4 weeks from now, but you have potentially 2 or fewer weeks to see either of these shows. So come and see ours first and then go to Chess.
Yes, what she said.